In today's video, I want to talk about things that have been serious problems in Brawl Stars for a really long time that no one is talking about, hasn't been addressed, and seriously needs to be changed. Now, I'm going to propose some solutions to these issues, but I would love to hear your opinion on all of these as well. Let's do it. First, two honorable mentions for things that probably should be changed in Brawl Stars, but also probably won't get changed. The first one is Gale's jump pad. As soon as Gale's second gadget comes out, there will be no reason whatsoever to use Gale's jump pad unless you're trying to cheese opponents. So it probably deserves a buff, but because it's fun, it also probably won't. The second honorable mention is just because it's so freaking annoying, and that's Squeak's attack sound when there is multiple Squeaks in a match. Oh god, I don't think there's anything more annoying in Brawl Stars. Alright, but now into the real list. The first thing that really needs to change in Brawl Stars is Jackie's super. Jackie's super is next to useless, and the proof is in Jackie just got a huge buff to how fast her super charged, and it basically did nothing for Jackie. In fact, she got worse, really, because the meta for her got worse, but she got a huge buff. You might think that would make her better, but her super is so useless, it really just didn't. I mean, the idea of it kind of makes sense. A super that pulls in enemies from a wide range to allow her to deal more AoE damage. For a brawler that's short range, pulling in enemies could be good, but the reality is, one, it takes too long to activate, sometimes leaving her a little bit vulnerable. Yes, she gets a shield, but the super also does no damage whatsoever. And many times, if you're trying to get a kill, it's in fact worse to use your super because of the time it takes to do this. You're often better off just using your normal attacks as fast as you can, and maybe after you're out of normal attacks will you use your super just because you get a small shield and to keep the enemy slightly close. There is a couple things you could do. Of course, you could just replace it with something totally new. You could buff it, like for instance, increase the range of it by a lot. I think this might be the best route, but I also think you need to actually go further than that. I think even if you increase the range, it might not be good enough. Also add a little bit of damage. Not that much, just like 500, but make it something so that if you're trying to finish an enemy, it's not a choice always between having to do that attack because the super just sucks and does no damage, or maybe you have the ability to do that super small amount of damage, finish a couple kills. The second thing that needs to change is Poco's second gadget. Yeah, I thought this gadget was going to be trash before it came out, and guess what? It's very trash. I mean, if you think about it, it sounds like it could be good. 1 second immunity. Oh, immunity sounds nice. To damage, right? No, it's just immunity to effects, but only for a second. The thing is with this gadget, it doesn't affect a ton of brawlers. There's not a lot of brawlers in the game that apply these effects, so there's going to be a lot of matchups where this gadget is just completely useless because the enemy brawlers don't have a lot of effects to make this gadget really that useful. While I do think the best route for Poco is to just completely replace this gadget, give it something new, like maybe a gadget that boosts the damage of nearby allies, like 10% extra damage for their next attack. That could be good. Or you gotta really buff it, like make it 5 seconds immunity to negative effects. I really think that would have to be a minimum for this to even become slightly meta. The third broken mechanic that needs to change is Lu's super in Siege. Lu is a really hard brawler to balance basically only because of this. His super against the Siege robot is so broken. If you super an enemy robot in range of your Ike and there's a wall that is in the way of the robot just slightly, the robot will just completely stop moving whether he's frozen or not. It's just because of the movement messes up the robot and there's a wall in the way, so he's just like, oh well, I give up, not gonna move at all. Okay, GG, that's it. And basically Lu is only good in Siege for that reason. I'll have to admit though, I'm not 100% sure on the best way to fix this problem for Lu. One possible solution might be to make the robot resistant to move speed changes, or at least slightly resistant to it. Possibly that could change it to where this one mechanic won't heavily impact him more than any other mechanic in the game really does. But while Lu's super is supposed to stun and slow enemies, Frank's first gadget is supposed to not allow any of that to happen to him. But in reality, this isn't true. While his gadget says he's supposed to become momentarily immune to stuns, slows, and knockbacks, it really needs a star because there are a couple of cases where this isn't true. For instance, Primo's throw gadget. What's that, Frank? You're gonna super me and use your gadget so you can't get stunned? Oh, too bad. I'm an El Primo, so it just doesn't work. Or maybe you're a Gene and you super the Frank. Also another instance where Frank's gadget doesn't work. Or maybe you're a Sprout. You can use your super as well. Push the Frank, even though he has his gadget activated, it's still going to get disabled. And Rowdy, I assume these instances are just things that were difficult to code correctly for the specific scenario of Frank's first gadget. Maybe they are fixable, but since I'm not a developer, obviously, I'm not actually sure. All right, these next two are actually for the same brawler. That's right. First of all, Darryl's first star power, in my opinion, really needs to change. Yeah, it's 90% damage reduction. That's insane. But for 0.9 seconds, it's only gonna last the duration of the roll. Technically speaking, if you time this incredibly well, like if you're a pro player, you might be able to really avoid a ton of damage. But if you're a more normal player playing against more normal players, who are probably auto-aiming a lot of their shots, and maybe they're not ready to preemptively shoot a rolling in Darryl to actually allow that Darryl to even take advantage of that star power. A lot of situations for normal players, you're not going to be able to take advantage of the shield almost at all. I really think what needs to happen with this star power is it needs to last longer and have a less shield duration. Make it like 60% or 70% shield for like 2 seconds. That way you can roll on in. You have around a second to dish out your damage with a shield, and then you can either roll on out or, you know, you're just stuck in the fight without a shield. Now, the other part of Darryl that is definitely kind of broken and needs fixing is his second gadget, where he slows nearby enemies. Honestly, before this gadget came out, I thought it sounded pretty good. Like, mechanically, a slow for a melee short-range brawler sounds like a decent idea, but in reality, since at the moment everyone's using that second star power, he does a ton of damage, so he can kill enemies really quickly. But the second and most important thing is, when you roll on an enemy, you hit them and stun, you knock them up, they're momentarily disabled from moving, and you really, as a brawler who has a faster than average move speed, you don't need that slow for enemies to stay within your range. They're going to be within your range. You just rolled in on them. Like, that slow is really not helpful in almost every scenario. I'm not saying there's none, but almost. Now, while you could buff this gadget to make it a little bit better, like you could increase the radius of it, but it probably still wouldn't get that much better. So, what I really think you need to do is replace it. And here's an idea that I think a lot of OG players will like. And that's when you use your next super, the roll range is doubled. That's right, a lot of you might remember that old Darryl where you could roll really far across the map. Bring that back, baby, but just make it in the form of a gadget. Just sort of like Squeak's attack has that mechanic where his range gets double for his next attack. Double the range of Darryl's next super. I think a lot of people would like it. Another gadget that needs to change is Nani's second gadget, Return to Sender. This gadget is frustrating because in some scenarios it's completely trash, almost useless, like versus a Pam or any kind of short-range map, or it's completely overpowered, like on Shooting Star, where there's a ton of long-range brawlers that deal a lot of damage, like Piper with Ambush, or like a Brock gadget, or even like a Nani super. There's a couple scenarios, specific scenarios, where it's overpowered, and then some others where it's just really bad. My idea is to make it so instead of it returning 80% of the damage, it returns all 100%. The reason for this is so that when you have those trash scenarios, it's slightly better, but put a damage cap on it. So it can do like a maximum of 1,500 damage to whoever it's getting sent back to. So it's still gonna deflect all the damage, so Nani doesn't take any damage from the next attack, but there's a damage cap. This hopefully would allow you to buff the gadget to a certain degree, or you could even make it so it deflects 200% of the damage, but still have that damage cap. So that way, if you have those really low damage attacks, you can actually dish out more damage to them than they even intended to do to you. If you enjoyed this video, check out more ideas to improve Brawl Stars right over there that I'm sure you'll also enjoy. Thanks so much for watching this video though, and I'll catch you later. Peace.